This episode of Distraction is sponsored by Landmark College, offering bachelor's and associate programs, short-term and summer programs for students who learn differently. Learn more at lcdistraction.org. Landmark College, the college of choice for students who learn differently.
It's not about more sex, it's about good sex, about wanting to be there with your partner in that way, and to generally be doing well with each other, to feel good about the parts of your partner that you like and are happy about, and to be able to kind of tolerate and be okay with the aspects of your partner or of your relationship that you wish were a little bit different.
Hello, this is Dr. Ned Hallowell for Distraction. Today I'm very happy to welcome an old friend, a veteran of the journey of ADHD. I don't know how long I've known Ari Tuckman, but it's a long time. He's a psychologist and a man who's been leading thought and treatment and discovery in the world of this condition for quite a while. He is a pioneer in the field. Right now, he's the co-chair of the conference that's coming up that I hope those of you who are interested will attend, the annual conference of Chad and Ada, who have combined forces. It will be held in Philadelphia, November 7, 8, and 9. And if you'd like to attend, you should go to theadhdconference.org. That's theadhdconference.org. And sign up. It's by far the most important, largest conference on ADHD. Lots and lots and lots of presenters. I'm actually going to be presenting myself this year. I don't usually do that, but I am this year, and lots of other people will be there, people that you can learn from and schmooze with and get the sort of personal side of things that you often don't get, and people really take time to get to know one another. It's a great place to connect. It's a great place to have fun and to also get the sort of the down and dirty about ADHD, not just what you read in the copy. And Ari is responsible for putting it together. He does a lot of the legwork, a lot of the work that wouldn't get done if it weren't for people like him. And in addition to all of that, he has taken the time to research and put together a unique book on a topic that has interested people for a long while, but nobody really knew what to write or say about it, namely sexuality and ADHD. And his book that has been out, he tells me, for about a month now, ADHD After Dark, he's been kind enough to come on to our podcast and talk about. And so without further ado, let me welcome Dr. Ari Tuckman to Distraction.
Well, thank you for having me. Really excited to be here.
Well, thank you. Tell us about the book and how it came to be and what our listeners will find if they buy it.
Sure. So, the longer I deal with ADHD, the more I wanted to do something that didn't just talk about the practical aspects of life, but that got into the relationship aspect. Because, for most of us, relationships are a big part of our happiness and satisfaction in life. So to look at the relationship part, I also then wanted to look at the sexuality part of these relationships, because that's a big, important part of relationship satisfaction. And yet there wasn't anything out there on how ADHD and sexuality overlap. So I put together this really big survey. I got 3,000 people to fill it out, and I did a lot of number crunching, and that became the foundation for this book, ADHD After Dark. And I am really psyched to get it out there, and I hope people read it, and I hope that they get a lot from it.
What conclusions surprised you the most?
So I think that the thing that I'm really kind of stuck on the most is when I asked people to rate how much effort did they put in on managing their or their partner's ADHD, and how much effort do they feel their partner puts in. So first of all, everybody rates themselves as working a little bit harder. That's just kind of the way we all are. We give ourselves a little bit of extra credit. But what was really, really interesting was the folks who felt that their partner put in the most effort on managing ADHD had sex 2/3 more often than the folks who felt their partner put in the least effort. So in other words, 92 times a year versus 55 times a year. And I think that is a big difference. And I think that obviously it represents the fact that both partners, I think, in these couples are both working hard. They're working hard on managing ADHD, and they're working hard at being good partners in other ways. And that then shows up in lots of good ways in their relationship, including in their sex life. So I think the frequency of sex is a kind of indirect measure of lots of other good stuff going on. And I think that the big lesson here is be a good partner, be a good team member, and ask your partner and sometimes challenge your partner for them to also be a good team member. It'll benefit how you manage ADHD. It'll benefit your relationship overall. It'll benefit your sex life.
Well, do you know how often does the average couple have sex in the country today, whether or not they have ADHD?
You know what? I don't know the overall average. I think it often depends.
On age and how long they've been married and all that kind of stuff.
About once a week is probably about, what we're talking, for couples who've been together for a while.
Mm-hmm. And how often does the average ADHD couple have sex?
So interestingly, if the man has ADHD, they had sex 1.1 times per week. And if the woman had ADHD, they had sex 1.4 times per week. So there's a gender effect there. And I think that some of it has to do with the fact that in the couples where the man has ADHD, often the female partner feels more frustrated, more tired, feels resentful about having to perhaps take up more of the slack of what their male partner is perhaps not doing as efficiently at home. And that then impacts their sex life. And of course, it's not just about frequency. It's not about more sex. It's about good sex, about wanting to be there with your partner in that way, and to generally be doing well with each other, to feel good about the parts of your partner that you like and are happy about, and to be able to kind of tolerate and be okay with the aspects of your partner or of your relationship that you wish were a little bit different. So it's not just about getting rid of ADHD symptoms. It's about how do we as two people live well together, make decisions together, negotiate fairly together.
Did you find any problems that you thought were unique or special to couples where there was ADHD?
I don't think ADHD creates new problems so much as I think what it does is I think it exacerbates the universal struggles. So, for example, when I asked people in the survey, what are some of the biggest barriers to a better sex life? The biggest barriers had to do with either having enough time/energy for sex or having enough good feelings towards each other to have sex. And I think it's that, for any of us busy couples, that's what reality looks like. It's about having enough time and energy, and it's about not feeling kind of frustrated with each other so that we want to spend that close time together. And interestingly, the barriers that were rated the least were all related to actually enjoying the sex. So generally speaking, once people get around to being sexual together, they tend to enjoy it.
Hold on for 1 minute so I can tell our listeners about our wonderful sponsor. Students' families are an important part of Landmark College. They understand that family communications with college staff may be needed more often for students who learn differently. Landmark College fosters an environment of open communication among families, the college, and students. For example, family orientation and family weekend, and Landmark College's family services in general, are designed to help parents understand the support, needs, and developmental milestones of successful students in college versus high school. Prospective families can read student stories, schedule a campus visit, or contact parents of current students. Go to lcdistraction.org for more information. What I've found in my practice with couples is that the things you'd expect, a scheduling problem, procrastination, that people with ADD just don't make time for it, and then they say, "Oh, we wanted to, but we didn't make time for it." So I've found a behavioral prescription to be very helpful. That pick a time, anytime, 10 o'clock on Tuesday, and just show up in bed naked and see what happens. And if you end up watching Law and Order, fine, so be it. And they found that very helpful. And if they say it's not very romantic, they find actually anticipation is foreplay.
Yeah.
So it's actually pretty exciting if Tuesday morning you know what you have to look forward to Tuesday night.
Right. Exactly. Well, and that's the thing, is that as much as planning sex doesn't feel sort of spontaneous or romantic, the reality is when you first start dating, sex is not spontaneous then. Like when you're first getting together with someone, you are very much planning ahead when you're going to see them, and you get extra dressed up, and you're expecting that you probably, hopefully, are going to have sex together. So, this idea that sex just needs to, spontaneously seize you, it's a lovely notion, but I think in the real world of adults, things that we plan for are much more likely to happen. And I think that all of us, maybe folks with ADHD especially, would benefit from having this goalpost in mind. Like, tonight, our goal is to be in bed by 10 with everything put away or whatever. And let's really make that important good time together.
Right.
So the goal is to get there and to feel good about each other when you do.
Right.
That can be a pretty good motivator to get stuff done in the evening and earlier in the day so that time actually happens.
Another point that I've found very helpful to my female patients, a lot of women with ADD have trouble paying attention during lovemaking because of their ADD, and so they have trouble reaching orgasm, not because of any emotional hang-up, but simply because of the core symptom of ADD, trouble sustaining focus. And for them, what a difference a little Adderall makes. I have female patients who say they ought to call that the female Viagra.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. If you are someone for whom distractibility during sex is problematic enough, then you should do something about it. Like a little bit of medication, maybe a bit of mindfulness, or maybe a bit of planning the sexual encounter in a way so that there aren't a lot of other things kind of hanging over you, kind of that mental clutter.
And then another one that I found is some men who feel very ashamed and think of themselves as sex addicts turn out that they just have untreated ADD, and they've basically been self-medicating with online sex as a tool for treating their ADD. And when they get their ADD treated with stimulant medication, suddenly they let go of what they had taken to be a sex addiction, and it wasn't that at all. It was just self-medicating untreated ADD.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing of it, is a lot of what gets labeled as sex addiction or porn addiction is really not that. Like, there's some other thing going on.
Right.
And that this sexual behavior, whether it involves somebody else or just themselves in a screen, is a way of coping with something else. And I think that that's a much better way of addressing that behavior than it is to sort of put on an addiction model.
Well, what other lessons or findings came out of your study, Ari?
I found a lot of things, but treatment works. That's a thing that I found, which is not surprising to you or me or anyone else in this field. That the good news about ADHD is that the treatment we have works pretty well. So as long as you put in the effort, and not just sort of one and done, but that people who not only rated themselves as putting in more effort, but also their partner putting in more effort, found treatment to be more effective. And those who use more than one treatment, meaning medication, educating themselves about ADHD, working on lifestyle factors, meaning sleep, diet, exercise, maybe seeing a therapist, either individually or as a couple, coach, organizer, etc. The more ways that you address this, the better off you're going to be. But the couples who are the happiest were not necessarily the ones who felt that ADHD had like disappeared out of their life, but it's that they found a way to work well together despite whatever ADHD remained. When I looked at the overlap between overall relationship satisfaction and sexual satisfaction, I found that there was about a 2/3 overlap, which is, pretty much what other research has found, and that it speaks to the fact that if you're happier in one of these, you tend to be happier in the other. And the sort of big rationale for the survey and then for the book is this idea that couples who have some additional struggles by day can benefit all the more from the connection and good feelings that come from good sexual experiences by night, or hopefully by day also. But that, having that good connection together is really important because life is stressful enough and there's enough mundane nonsense that we all have to deal with that to be able to do well together in that way will benefit you as a couple. And if you have kids, it will benefit you as parents. Like, the better we are as a couple, the better we are as parents. So, sex should not be the last thing, and it shouldn't be the least important thing.
What kind of response have you received from the book?
So far, it's been positive. People are really happy that I'm talking about it. The sort of joke I have on this is that when it comes to sex and ADHD, nobody is speaking about it, by which I mean the people like me and like you who write books and present at conferences and do webinars and all of that. Now, who is talking about it is the million couples out there who have someone with ADHD. They're doing tons of talking about that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about the conference that's coming up in, 2 months? Tell us about it.
So we're going to be in Philadelphia this year, which means if you are somewhere between New York City and Washington, D.C., it is super easy to get to this year. The first time we've ever been in Philadelphia, and it's going to be better than it's been before. So, as you mentioned, we're partnering with ADA. This is, I think, our third year with ADA, and it's our second year where we're partnering with ACO, the ADHD Coaches Organization. So, we have all the same great speaker sessions that we've had, forever, but we're adding in more and more interactive experiences. So if you don't want to spend the whole day kind of sitting and listening to speakers, there are other things that you can do. And, for me, what's so great about this conference is this sort of cross-pollination of knowledge that we have clinicians and researchers and academics and people with ADHD or family members with ADHD, and it's a little bit of everybody. There's this accessibility that you can have some of the biggest names in the world of ADHD standing at the front of the room giving a presentation, and then when, 3 hours later you see them in the hallway at the coffee line, you can just go up and have a conversation with them. And that, I think, is really cool, that there's this friendly kind of accessibility. I mean, you know what it's like. Kind of you get mobbed at the conference, and that's a really cool thing. So I think it's going to be fun.
What's the venue?
It is at the Marriott. It is right downtown in Philadelphia. So we're not technically Philadelphia, but actually out by the airport. We are smack in the middle of Philly.
Right.
Bunch of restaurants right nearby. There's Reading Terminal Market, a block away. So, if you want to get out of the hotel and get some awesome lunch options, there's a whole bunch right there. So there's lots of good stuff going on right there.
And there are different price points depending upon how much of it you want to attend?
Indeed. So you can attend the whole thing, soup to nuts, or you can do, just the pre-conference sessions, just the general conference, or just the day. So, depending on your schedule and what you're looking for, there's a number of options.
And it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
It is. Same as always.
It's November 7, 8, and 9.
Right.
Really, I've looked at the program, and there's so many different topics covered. It would interest parents, it would interest teachers, it would interest clinicians, family therapists, individual therapists, a parent who just wanted to learn everything he or she could, a teen who wanted to learn, an adult who was just learning about ADHD. I think you've done a great job of organizing it.
I've had a lot of good help, so there's a lot of good people involved.
There'll be vendors there as well, right? So people can buy books and they can buy educational materials as well?
Yep, yeah. We do have an exhibit hall, which has, all sorts of different people doing all sorts of different stuff related to ADHD. So that's a good opportunity as well to see what is going on out there in the field. And if you're someone out there involved in this provision of services somehow to folks with ADHD, it's a phenomenal marketing opportunity. Because again, you have the best speakers, there's lots of interesting conversations that happen in the hallway.
And if one of those people wanted to reach you, Ari, how would they reach you?
Probably the easiest way is to send me an email to ari@tuckmanpsych.com. Or you can fill out the contact form on my website, adultadhdbook.com. So that's my books and podcasts website.
Adultadhdbook.com.
Right.
That's Ari's website. Okay. And then the conference website is theadhdconference.org.
Yep. That is your one-stop shop for everything related to the conference.
Wonderful. And Ari's new book about sex and ADD is ADHD After Dark. Well, this is wonderful. You're a real pioneer and a great servant of the ADHD world and community, and it's been a real pleasure to have you join us. Thank you, Ari.
Well, it is my pleasure. It's always great to talk to you, and I look forward to seeing you in Philly.
Distraction is made by Sounds Great Media. Our producer is the extremely talented Sarah Guertin. This podcast is recorded and mixed by the equally talented Pat Keogh.